So Sir William Gaming was like, can you do more of these cinematic tutorials? I got you. So in this video, I'm gonna take 2 raw footages. I never show anybody my raw footage. I'm gonna show you how I make them more cinematic. And by the end of this video, I'll tell you exactly which 2 cameras are these videos coming from, and no, it is not both Nikons. So if you haven't checked my first video on how I took more cinematic videos, go watch that first. But what I have here is 2 raw footages, and if I just play them back, here is clip number 1, roughly around 24 seconds, and then we have clip number 2. Both these clips really cinematic to begin with. Well, let's break down the first clip if you haven't checked that out yet. And the first thing I'm going to do is, before I even edit this, I'm looking at framing. So to make something cinematic, before you even do any editing, you look at the framing. And I purposely put this framing where the model or talent is straight down the middle right here, as you can see. And you have these leading lines, like in photography, where I have these lines and it points towards my subject. And then, as well as, I have this beautiful backdrop of a city skyline. And yes, you know, I could use like a reflector or something to just bounce off the light, so my talent has a little bit more of a, lighting for the face, but, it is what it is. And that is what makes this video a little bit more cinematic to begin with. Same with my second clip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a point where, let's say, what looks more cinematic. What can I make more cinematic here? Camera framing is a little bit too close. Actually, right here, where the framing is, the model is slowly going towards the middle. So I'm going to pick here. And now it is almost like in the rule of thirds. That little clip right there. So the step 2 is how I make this a little bit more cinematic is I'm going to go into here, and guess what? Both of these 2 videos are filmed in slow motion. Slow motion or movement makes everything a little bit more cinematic. So what I do is I'll right click here, modify, interpret footage, and look, this was filmed in 120 frames per second. So I'm going to slow this down to a 23 frame per second clip. Click OK. Right click my second clip. I'm like, hey, this was also filmed in 60 frames per second. So I'm going to slow this down in half, 23.976. And then I'm going to take both these clips. I'm just going to find the in and out points where I want. So when you're filming in 120 frames per second, it's 4 times slow motion, 4 times the speed, right? So I'm looking for some movement. This looks cool. There you go. And that's going to be my first cinematic clip. Next is I have my other in and out points. There. That is my second cinematic clip. So the next, what I would do is I would look at how can I make this clip a little bit more cinematic. Because yes, slow motion is cool, but 120 frames per second is too slow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something called speed ramping, all right, time mapping. So I'm going to figure out where exactly I want this to slow down. My M for marker, just so I know. So I'm going to speed it up there, and then I'm going to slow it down here. I click Shift plus, right click, show clip keyframes, time remapping, and speed. Now I want this to be fast and then slow down right here, so I'm going to hold Control, keyframe there, slow motion, and then this to go back to normal speed. And if you haven't watched my other video, I do have a video on how you exactly speed ramp. Check that video, link in the description below. Check that out. So I'm just going to smoothen this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the timing of this in terms of how fast or slow I want this clip to be. BRB. So what I did there is I just made a little bit of speed time remapping. So the motion is a little bit more interesting. So I did pick my points where I wanted it to slow down. So speed, slow, and then speed up, and then slow again. Let's see what I can do with the second clip. So the second clip is, I'm going to go here. So when she looks at the camera, I think I can pause there. So I'm going to cut that. go back into this clip and being like, maybe slow, slow, slow. Maybe speed. So what I'm gonna do is, right when she takes a sip, time slows down. So I'm gonna click M to put my marker. Slow, slow, slow. Stops the sip. Time speeds back up. And for this clip, there is a little bit of, motion shaking. So what I'm gonna do is, for both clips, I'm gonna add a little trick, warp stabilizer. This appears, so what you gotta do is make sure you nest this. And then put warp stabilizer on top of that. That's a little trick. If you're watching that video, watch that too. I'm gonna put maybe 10%. I'm gonna nest that, and then I'm gonna put warp stabilizer on that. And all that does is it just makes the footage look a little bit more smoother. And of course, before you actually film, or before you actually do anything in post-production or editing, I'm already using a gimbal to make it steady as possible, as well as having vibration reduction, optical stabilization on my lens or my camera body if it allows to do so. So I'm gonna put this one maybe 10%. And I'm just gonna let Adobe Premiere do its thing. I'm gonna look back at the footage. So for this, because there is a speed ramping, it does make the footage a little distorted. But since I put a 1% warp stabilizer, most people can't really tell. I'm gonna cut it right there. Right when she looks at the camera, cut. So what we did so far is we made sure framing, and I picked the right in and out points in both my footages, and then did a little bit of speed ramping on both. Next, what I'm gonna do is, to make something a little more cinematic, is you're gonna be adding color correction. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to my Lumetri or color tab. And then I'm gonna also be looking at my Lumetri color scopes. If Adobe will let me. And once you look at your color scopes, what you're looking at is, are your highlights and shadows being crushed, or is it an even sort of color scheme going on? First, what I realized right away is it is a little underexposed, so I'm going to increase the exposure. Next, what I'm going to do is, because I know what camera I used, is I'm going to increase the contrast just a little bit. Next, what I'm going to do is, let's play around with the highlights. All right, slow it down. Shadows, let's increase the shadow just a little bit. Voicing, decrease. Blacks, just enough so it doesn't get crushed. Then I'm going to go into my curves. I'm going to do a little S curve to this. So I'm just pushing all the highlights a little bit more brighter, and the darkness, or the little bit more contrasty. Basic color correction. Bring down my shadows just a bit. And let's see how that looks before and after. As you can see, a little bit more of life to this. Next, what I can do is I can go to my Creative tab and increase the vibrance. As you can see, take away the vibrance, include the vibrance. So the vibrance doesn't make everything more saturated. It picks pretty much your skin and color tones. As you can see, they're still green, they're still orange here. So I'm just going to increase my vibrance just a little bit. I'm going to increase my saturation as well. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to my curves. And I go into hue versus hue. And I look for a general color that I want to, for my own aesthetic, what I want to change. So this one, the green is a little too distracting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this jacket. And I'm going to change this points. And you just want to play around with it and see what it does, right? And for me, I like the teal and yellow color. So you can see before and after. That's just more along the lines of my own aesthetic. And this is how I make this clip a little bit more cinematic. And of course, you can go even a step further and put on another fast color corrector, and you can do a mask on the face, and you can track the face where it would make the face a little bit more brighter. But this is a YouTube video. I'm going to do this just for example. For this, looking back in hindsight, I should have used a ND filter, which would essentially take away all this highlighted backdrop right here. Really regret not doing that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the curves. Same thing. Give a little S curve to it. But because it's red there and the face is all skin tone, that's a thing that you can't, it's a little harsh to do. But what I can do is I can change the color just a bit. Drag and drop what we had before. This is what we had before. Stabilization clip right here. And then what we have after. And then to make it a little bit more cinematic, like I already said, add in your sound design, maybe crop it a bit if it's in 4K just to reframe and reposition, add a little bit of music, and that, guys, that is how you make these two clips cinematic. Gang gang.
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palms. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever want.
So if you watched this far, I hope, especially you, Sir William Gaming, I was able to show you how I make these two normal clips a little bit more cinematic. And I want you guys to challenge yourself, right? How to make a boring clip something a little bit more movie-like. What does cinematic actually mean? It's a combination of framing, storytelling, sound design, visual production, and how it looks overall to the viewer's eyes. And if you watch this far now, the first camera, you already know, was filmed on the Nikon Z50, which I'm using right now, on a flat picture profile with a kit lens. And the second clip was actually filmed on a Sony A6500 with the, it was the Weeble. This was a long time ago, with the 30mm 1.4 lens prime. So back to back, which clip looks better? Can you tell the difference between these two clips? Which one do you prefer? Which one don't you like? Let me know in the description below what type of content you want to see more of. And if you want to get serious about content creation and content editing, and hell, even freelance video editing, check out my course in the description and the comments below for those that want to get serious and how I can help you take that course. My name's Peter. You're watching Broke Journey Collective, where we all start with nothing, but you can always make cinematic videos. Cheers, guys.